강하기 독지 예수네 따와 탐지 방배치 담배 취니 된제바 고담데라 겹수지. A very good and fresh good morning to everyone assembled here. I am Nima Srin.
I'm Qamar.
We both take the privilege of hosting this very special event, the 92nd Annual General Meet of Association of Indian Universities.
On behalf of the Central Institute of Higher Tibetan Studies, we would like to convey our heartiest and warm tashdele
Namaste
and a very good morning to our chief guest of the 92nd Annual General Meet of Association of Indian Universities, His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama, the President and Secretary General of AIU, distinguished guests on the dais and off the dais, Honorable Vice Chancellors and Directors of the universities, foreign delegates, representatives of the apex bodies, local guests, teachers, staffs, and students of the university. It is our pleasure to welcome you all at this important meet.
Without further ado, may I now request the Students' Association of Performing Arts to sing the Kul Geet of the Institute.
Thank you for singing so beautifully and bringing us new hope as well as letting us remember our prime motive. It is a mark of undying tradition to invoke the pure motivation at the beginning of an important event. Like the great philosopher Kierkegaard once said, the function of prayer is not to influence God, but rather to change the nature of the one who prays. Now I would like to call upon a group of girl students to sing the Mangala Charan in Sanskrit.
Thank you for singing Mangalacharya in Sanskrit. We all feel blessed indeed. Now I would like to call a group of monk students to sing the Mangalacharya in Tibetan.
ngay shung ring sor cha da chi formality cha de nga gaus ke me ko khar kha du chen chen ye ro ta cha cha ro shu che dan chok ha ja sa ngay nga dang gu da de bian zu ju de me do ga ge jian ju chi go re ge bian zu ju de so ga de da bana da da cha wo de shu la de 아니 로비 랭된다 데즈테디 땅 아소리야 로즈기 믹싱에 차르와 자상가 딘지 인자 디디 네 빈주 줍든사디 세브리 네 빈주 줍든 세브디 디기메나 간 가버tir체 딘지미도 슬라샤나 디그르와 디레케 메르체 엔디 구단즈 나로리아 아니 견주 손님마도 구단시다 메르체체 루루다디 과야래 자상에만 소유리야 아니 냐만가 차지 심be 그들이야 변주 주든 구단지 네 풀지 소유하는데 간다고 봐 내가 벽에 레베 그들 변주 주든 구단 가야 지 배 쿠교지를 샤샤샤 따다래체 지난주 변주 주든 흉은 다고 되어야 말이스 담바르치는 도시마 마도 흉지 되고 말이스 이제 인디 변주 주든 게땅 안주 흉을 빼지당 안주 흉리야 롬니 장에는도 애들 가서 크죠도 제 슈이스 되서 또 가스게 라비 이 슈데 나도스 다때 가서 자르지 슈트 타오르지 알아다 아니 변주 주든 게 아니 고단 슈트가 안 돼. 샤스. any chance best hours. 근데 슬라비. 저상아 가셔이나 Samten 변주 주든 마상 제시에 샤샤 가르셔이나 삼한테 참버리. 다 송시.
마
Thank you. May I now request Professor Geshe Samten, Vice Chancellor of Central Institute of Higher Tibetan Studies, to offer scarves to His Holiness the Dalai Lama, the chief guest of the program, and the dignitaries on the dais.
May I now request Professor Geshe Samten, Padma Shri Awardee, Vice Chancellor of the Central Institute of Higher Tibetan Studies, to give a welcome address.
Sarvadrishti Prahanaya Saddhamam Adeshyat Anukampam Upadhyay Tam Gautamam Namami Kange Tuzinya Sume Tawatam Jan Pangbesh Tambechuni Dunzima Utam de la Chancellor. Your Holiness the Dalai Lama, the Honorable President of Association of Indian Universities, Professor B.B. Sharma ji, and the Vice Chancellor of MIT University, respected General Secretary of Association of Indian University, Professor Furqan Qamar ji, Mr. Fransisco Marmolejo, the Global Coordinator of Higher Education, World Bank, Honorable Vice Chancellors and Directors from all over the country, foreign delegates, representatives of apex bodies, officers and staff of the entourage of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, the officers and staff members of Association of Indian Universities, distinguished guests from various institutions of Varanasi and Sarnath, faculty members, staff, and dear students of my university. On behalf of every member of this university, I express our deep gratitude to Your Holiness for accepting the request of the Association of Indian University to bless this occasion, and I welcome you. I also welcome each and every one of you attending this 92nd annual meet of Association of Indian Universities. We are extremely happy that the 92nd annual meet of Association of Indian University, AIU, is being held for the first time in Varanasi. I am grateful to Honorable President, Secretary General, and the members of Governing Council for giving us this opportunity to host this important event. Varanasi is known as not only the oldest city in India, but also as a melting pot of knowledge, where scholars from all the traditions gathered here, not for decades, not for centuries, but for thousands of years. Sarnath, which is within the Varanasi, is the place where Lord Buddha, after attaining the enlightenment in Bodh Gaya, came here and gave his first Dharma sermon to the 5 disciples. Eventually, the light of his wisdom spread to the rest of the world. India's rich civilization is deeply grounded on philosophical investigation of reality, which is manifested in several schools of thought. They are not merely meant for mental exercise, but are for the transformation of mind, leading to emancipation from suffering. Internal world being the object of exploration, many schools of thought developed high level of science of mind and other related fields of studies like epistemology, psychology, and logic, etc. These schools of thought did not develop in their isolated shell, but they developed through a rich and productive interaction in the mode of vivad and samvad with other schools. Shiksha in ancient Indian schools of thought is therefore a union of knowledge of theory and practice, manifested in behavior through the process of A. acquisition of knowledge, B. contemplation, and C. meditation. Meditation is nothing but internalization of any given quality. Today, in the modern context, although we use this same word shiksha, it has lost the inner dimension. With the influence of modern education system in India, education or shiksha is confined to knowledge or information of material world. We must acknowledge the science has made a tremendous advancement and contribution to humanity in the fields of space, transportation, information, medicine, and others. However, since the education system at the global level has become materialistic in approach, without taking into consideration the human development, we face serious consequences of all spheres of life. To address this issue, we must take up the subject of personality development in our curriculum, which alone can save us from further deterioration. As one of the cherished area, His Holiness the Dalai Lama has taken the initiatives of promoting human value based on philosophy of universal reality and common sense. Thus, it is secular and universal in nature. The receptivity of His Holiness's initiatives is extremely encouraging. Top scientists of neuroscience, psychology, educationists have been working for more than a decade on the nature and impact of destructive and positive emotions in our lives, and the ways and the methods of regulating them, which transforms a person and makes him or her a more peaceful and a happier person. The impact of the work is being seen in so many countries, particularly in North America and European countries, reaching to millions of teachers and students. India is making fast advancement in development since it has a rich history of providing education with a holistic approach. We must make our education system instrumental in creating a compassionate person equipped with the professional skills. Without being compassionate, intelligence and skill of any level cannot contribute to the well-being of society and humanity. At this 92nd meet, we have one day for a conference dedicated on the title Disruptive Technology in Higher Education and Ethics, which will be participated by all the Vice Chancellors and Directors across the country. I hope that many important ideas and suggestions will come to shape the future direction of the education. We are also grateful to Your Holiness for giving us time to interact with the Vice Chancellors and Directors tomorrow morning. I hope that this meet would be a milestone in the history of Association of Indian University and education in India at large. I hope that the deliberations would be certainly successful, productive, and make a significant impact on the education system of India. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. May I now request Professor Furqan Qamar, Secretary General of Association of Indian Universities, to give an introductory remarks.
Most esteemed, respected Your Holiness Dalai Lama, esteemed Vice Chancellor of the University, Prof. Samten, President of the Association of Indian Universities, Professor P.B. Sharma, Global Coordinator of Higher Education, and my friend from World Bank, Dr. Fransisco Marmolejo, distinguished Vice Chancellors from more than 150 universities in the country, officers and staff of this premier Central Institute of Higher Tibetan Studies, officers and colleagues from Association of Indian Universities, invited guests, ladies and gentlemen. I am in a dilemma that who should I thank first? Let me thank Central Institute of Higher Tibetan Studies and its Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Samten, for coming forward to propose to host this 92nd Annual General Meet of the Vice Chancellor. Sir, we are greatly honored and privileged to be here on your campus, and I say this not only on my behalf, but on behalf of all the member universities of the association, and particularly those who are present here. By hosting this event at the Central Institute of Higher Tibetan Studies, you also worked hard and provided us the privilege of being in the august presence of His Holiness Dalai Lama Ji. I, on behalf of each one of you, would like to express my deepest sense of gratitude to Your Holiness for kindly sparing His valuable time to inaugurate this event, and not only to inaugurate this event today, but also staying back for a day and to have an interactive session on human values, universal ethics tomorrow morning. Sir, we are deeply indebted to you. All of you are aware that this annual general meet of the Association of Indian Universities organizes 5 zonal conferences of the Vice Chancellor every year, which culminates into the annual general meet. This is the 92nd time that we are organizing this meet. AIU, as you are aware, was established in 1925, and at that time, not even 12 universities were its member. But today, we have reached to a position that out of about 868 universities in the country, 682 universities are our member. And this represents not only one kind of universities, but all types of universities in the country. We have 43 central universities as our member. We have 313 state universities as our member. We have 100 institutions deemed to be universities, one of which is this premier institution where we are standing today. 178 private universities and 48 institutions of national importance, which means IITs, ISAs, NITs, and maybe by the time we meet next year, many of the IIMs, Indian Institute of Management, would also be our member. We take great pride in this large number of universities reposing their faith and confidence in this association, and that also makes us feel more accountable and more responsible for the development of higher education in this country. Sir, every year we also choose a theme on which the distinguished vice chancellors and invited guests deliberate with the idea that we capture the wisdom that these vice chancellors and the leadership of higher educational institutions have, so that we could communicate them to all the decision makers and policy planners. This year, we have chosen a theme which is weighing very heavily on all of us for quite some time. There has been a belief that economic progress would bring prosperity, and this prosperity would also bring peace. Unfortunately, that has not happened to the extent it should have. We had thought that all the economic development would bring delight in our life. That has also not happened, and we are presently faced with a situation that these developments have led to, in a way, various kinds of disruptions, and technological disruptions is one which we are facing every day. Under these kind of situation, it becomes critical that when there are disruptions all around, particularly in the arena of technology, where everything that was being done in a particular manner and fashion are not supposed to be done now, is posing a great deal of challenge. Of course, as an educational institution, our role has been to prepare human being, an enlightened human being who could contribute for the development of the society and who could be an active contributors and players for the national development. But we are also expected to play a critical role in making these human resources useful for the society so that they could become better employees, better employers, better entrepreneurs. Now with the disruption, our challenges have become enormous. For example, we in the universities are concerned that if artificial intelligence is challenging that 90% of the jobs which are being presently done by human beings will no more require humans and could be done by machines, we need to sit back and think as to what should we then prepare our people to. I think under this kind of situation, another challenge is that the development must lead to progress in such a manner that we amongst ourselves imbibe, we as a faculty member develop amongst ourselves and in students a kind of universal human values. This year, this is the theme, sir, that we are going to deliberate tomorrow, and there cannot be a better setting, there cannot be a better person to guide us to lead our deliberation on this theme. With these few words, I once again express my gratitude to Your Holiness and thank each one of you for sparing your valuable time and coming here. We know how busy are Vice Chancellors and how difficult it must be for you to leave your workplaces for 3 or 4 days, but you chose to come, you found time for which we are grateful. You are most welcome, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor. May I now request Professor Fransisco Marmolejo, Global Coordinator of Higher Education, the World Bank, to give a special address.
Your Holiness, the Dalai Lama, distinguished Vice Chancellor of this fine institution, the Central Institute of Higher Tibetan Studies, distinguished President of the Association of Indian Universities, and distinguished Secretary General of the Association, Vice Chancellors and officers from higher education institutions in India, students of this institute, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is a real privilege for me, a unique opportunity, I might say, a unique lifetime opportunity to be today in this position sharing some perspectives on the challenges and opportunities ahead of higher education in the presence of an admired human being which has been the source of inspiration for many in the world, His Holiness the Dalai Lama. This is a unique moment also for India, because India is truly at a crossroads. It is a country that has become the human capital of the world, with the largest working age population in the world. It is the country that is generating every single month, and for the next 20 years, 1 million youth, which are going to be part of the working age population, in such a way that, we like it or not, it is in the best interest of India, but I might say it is in the best interest of the world for India to succeed. Because if India doesn't succeed, the world will fail. And for that matter, the role of higher education institutions is fundamental. Because we like it or not, it is in universities, the last part of the formal educational system, where students can acquire not only the professional skills for which officially they are enrolled in our institutions, but more important, the human dignity and value skills that will make of them true integral citizens of our societies. We should recognize that probably, in a way, we have failed, because many of the challenges that the world is facing today are challenges many times generated by people who were educated in our higher education institutions. And I should say that probably it is not the only responsibility of higher education institutions. At the end of the day, it's a societal problem that involves the entire educational system, but the last responsibility we have, the last chance we have to make a difference in the life of our students is precisely in your higher education institutions. In other words, if we are serious about a new generation with a new mindset for Indian citizens that will make a difference for India and for the world, it is in universities where the opportunity for change may happen. And this is a great opportunity and, of course, a significant challenge. As a Mexican myself, I remember becoming aware of the important role of the Association of Indian Universities many years ago. Before the internet, I remember receiving in my university the newsletter from the Association of Indian Universities, one that most of you may remember, with those linotype printing, with the cover of some of the buildings of the universities. Once in a year, this thick volume with a particular topic about precisely the annual conference of the association. I never imagined in those years in my country that someday I will have the privilege of participating in this conference, and of course that I will have the opportunity to be in this unique occasion. So thank you very much for that opportunity to be this morning with all of you. So let me tell you very briefly, if you don't mind, about what I see as key challenges that Indian higher education has, which I'm sure will be being discussed, and of course which are not new to any of you. The first one that I find is that Indian higher education system, and I see that from the uninformed and with the wisdom of ignorance about the higher education system that I have after my interaction with the country, for which I will ask for your forgiveness. So the first one has to do with the significant institutional fragmentation that the Indian system of higher education has. In addition to the more than 800 universities that Professor Furqan had indicated, which are part of the higher education system, if we add the colleges, we talk about more than 42,000 tertiary education institutions in the country. Just to put things in perspective, that means that for the last 15 years, India has created 6.3 new tertiary education institutions per day, including Saturdays and Sundays. And just to put in perspective, a system which is very similar in size in terms of enrollment of higher education, which is the system of China, has only a tenth of the number of tertiary education institutions that exist in India. So that is a significant challenge because it leads to difficulties in the coordination of such a complex system of tertiary education. The second one is that despite the institutional diversification that I mentioned, the institutional fragmentation, still there is a very limited fragmentation. Just to put in comparison, there are 3,400 higher education institutions in India offering engineering degrees, while, for instance, in the United States, only 359 institutions offer engineering degrees. There is not enough growth of the higher education system. As of today, as you know, only 13% of people between 22 and 65 years old in India have higher education studies. So that means that we, the ones who have the opportunity to have higher education studies, are truly privileged. But there are many who didn't have the same opportunity as we had. They had exactly the same right that we had, but they didn't have the privilege for having higher education studies. The next one has to do with the challenge of limited quality and limited employability of the graduates of higher education institutions. And that brings to the core topic of this conference. There is a study that the World Bank conducted in India not too many years ago, about 5 years ago. And basically the study was trying to compare the gap between what students learn, the skills the students have, and what employers indicate that is a deficiency on the graduates of the higher education institutions. And in addition to the typical professional skills, let me tell you about the key challenges that were indicated in terms of a gap. Skills such as integrity, reliability, teamwork, skills such as entrepreneurship, self-discipline, self-motivation, flexibility, and more important, empathy, were some of the skills that the higher education is not preparing students for. And those are precisely some of the skills that when we bring the topic of this conference about the focus on human values, still are not being addressed, but by our higher education institutions. So I think, in summary, what is needed is, of course, more education to more people, more equitable access to higher education, but probably more important, in addition to more education, we need better education. An education that will prepare not only the professionals of the future, but more important, the human beings of the future, the integral citizens of our societies that really will make a difference in the life of the future generations. This is time to act. And I guess this opportunity to be today in this very special place with the presence of His Holiness, in which all of us feel the spirituality of this place. This is an opportunity to act right now, to learn, to renew our commitment, and to renew our passion for education. This is the time to act, and I truly appreciate this opportunity to share these experiences. Just yesterday, my wife and I visited Bodh Gaya, the place where Buddha, as you know, was enlightened. Being today in the place in which he was able to share his philosophy with others, here is a unique opportunity. Let's take this as a chance to renew our commitment and passion for more and better education. The world deserves it, India deserves it, and more important, the future generations deserve. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor, for sharing your invaluable views on higher education system and institutions, as well as sharing your concerns about bringing a change in the world with the education systems as all. Thank you so much, Professor. May I now request Professor P.B. Sharma, President, Association of Indian Universities, to give the presidential address.
Our most respected chief guest of the day, His Holiness, Nobel Laureate of Peace, most respected Sri Dalai Lama ji, Honorable Vice Chancellor of Central Institute of Tibetan Studies, Professor Samten, our very dear friend from the World Bank, Mr. Fransisco Marmolejo, Secretary General of AIU, Professor Furqan Qamar, fellow Vice Chancellors, distinguished invitees, enlightened members of the press and media, ladies and gentlemen. It's indeed a matter of great privilege and honor for the Association of Indian Universities to host its 92nd annual convention here at Sarnath, the place where, as has been rightly informed, the enlightened Lord Buddha himself gave his discourse to his initiated disciples to build a better world tomorrow. It is in this context, my fellow Vice Chancellor, our assembly here, in the company of the divine presence of His Holiness Dalai Lama ji, holds a very important significance as we all are confronted with great challenges. Some of them have been reiterated by Mr. Fransisco. We are on the threshold of great opportunities for the nation like ours and for the humanity at large, and we have to capture these opportunities in the right earnest and turn the wheel in the right direction so that tomorrow it 1,000 times better than what it is today. And it is in this context, this 92nd Annual Convention of the Vice Chancellors of Indian Universities, being attended by the apex bodies connected with higher education and in the august presence of our foreign delegates, assumes a very strong significance. His Holiness, let me at the outset express my very personal, profound gratitude to you for accepting our invitation to be with us this morning to enlighten what can be done beyond the books of knowledge which we trade and transact in our universities as part of the curriculum. The whole world is asking us whether dissemination of knowledge, whether creation of knowledge, whether transacting that knowledge and producing graduates, postgraduates, and men of enlightenment with the doctorate degree is enough, or we require some additional dimensions to serve the interest of the vast humanity, protect the interest of Mother Nature, create that bliss of divinity here on Mother Earth, rather creating heaven on earth itself, ensure that our own motherland once again glows that eminence of divinity profoundly expressed in from the time immemorial by our spiritual, philosophical, and literary traditions here. We are confronted today with great and monumental challenges, and therefore we are highly privileged to be here in this Kumbh of Kulpatis, as I have called it. This Kumbh of Kulpatis is a great opportunity for my fellow Vice Chancellors to invigorate their soul, get renewed inspiration in their mind, and go back to the university with a tremendous amount of commitment and resolve to turn the wheel around, not only in respect of quality and excellence, the cause which we have been serving in the past, but ensuring that education of today and surely that of tomorrow becomes relevant for nation's development, for the development of humanity, creating cheers and smiles on billions of our people around the world, and creating that beautiful world around where we could keep our head high and thank the God Almighty for giving us an opportunity to serve Him through the service to the humanity. It is in this context a departure is required today, His Holiness, and that's why we are here on the lotus feet of Lord Buddha here in Sarnath in your divine presence to seek new guidance in this direction. We are also confronted today with the new challenge that innovation, which has now become a reality, is a great creative power, we all know. The power of creation, creativity of innovation is all too well known to us. But we are also confronting with the power of disruption which innovations create. And unless our own universities in the country and for that region around the world understand how to manage the age of innovation, which is the age of creativity, but also the age of enormous disruption that it causes, we shall fail in our responsibility to serve the interest of the vast humanity. And therefore, it's very important for us to look back into our glorious past, which we have, and we are privileged to be part of a civilization. But right in the early dawns of the civilization, proclamations of the kind which have relevance for the whole of the world in terms of universal values, universal ethics, universal codes of conduct for human beings were pronounced at an earliest time. Just imagine if the call of the Upanishad is Satyamev Jayate, who on earth would say that Satyamev Jayate should not happen? Is there anyone in this world who would say that we should support the rise of the evil and defeat the truth? No one. These are universal values. Firm commitment and resolve to truthfulness, submission to the cause of truth, ensuring that the purity of mind and purity of soul and purity of actions is upheld right up to the last breath of an individual, where the universal values which our forefathers traded and transacted. And that is why India was the wonder that it was. That is why it was the golden eagle of the East. We have to peep back into the great past which we had, learn from it what can be done today in the age of science and technology, where mind-boggling advances are taking place. We need also to create in us and our university community a sense of pride in our ancient wisdom that once made India a cradle of globally acclaimed high-quality education and human development for excellence. At the time when we must commit ourselves to reviving the ancient wisdom of practicing righteous way of life based on strict compliance to truth, maintaining purity of thoughts and actions, conforming to self-discipline, engaging ourselves into unending quest for research and new knowledge creation, but on top of all that, a caring concern for the well-being of mankind and that of Mother Nature, attaining perfection in our work activity and conformance to work ethics and professional morality, discovering the meaning and purpose of life for which we exist here as humans, and living a life full of divine bliss and happiness up to the age of 100 years. That is the promise of the Vedas. The Indian universities of Nalanda at Rajgir in Bihar, Takshashila in northwest India, close to Gandhar at that time, and Vikramshila at Ujjain in central India, later in Bhagalpur in Bihar, and the Gurukuls of Sandipni Ashram at Ujjain, where Lord Krishna himself went for studies along with Sudama, the Dronacharya Ashram in the close vicinity of my own university in Gurgaon, Vishwamitra and Bharadwaj Ashrams at Chitrakoot during the Mahabharata and Ramayana times, were the centers of higher education research for cultivation of most advanced science and technology that created the wonder that India was and brought the much acclaim for the global eminence of its scholastic and scientific achievements. These and many more residential gurukuls and universities of ancient India provided education in harmony with nature. And we are truly privileged to see that that's happening here at the Institute of Tibetan Studies, where you have a perfect harmony with nature within your own campus and inspire the seekers of knowledge to adhere to the principles of peace, purity, and righteousness as the cardinal principles of leading a dignified human life. I need not overemphasize that education, especially higher education, is to be the fountainhead of a developed, prosperous, and enlightened human society that shall contribute to peace, prosperity, harmony, and happiness all around. This is, of course, a tall order. But then who else other than the universities in a country like ours, which are the repository of tremendous wisdom of the Orient, blessed with the enlightened and inspired minds of faculty and students, the torchbearers of the faith of the people of this world, or for that region, the humanity at large, could deliver this promise, I ask you, fellow Vice Chancellors. This calls for a sustained focus on quality, relevance, and excellence, nurtured in an environment of integration of education with values, so that the universities in India could become, in true sense, partners in progress of nation's development and meet the local as well as global aspirations of human excellence. India's higher education has registered an impressive growth during the last 70 years, cannot be denied. We have achieved, as of today, 25 plus gross enrollment ratio by our sustained effort to expand higher education in India. But the mistake we are making is that we think that everybody should be going to the university without caring for the concern for the quality of education, its connect to the society, its caring concern for the health of the environment, and ensuring that the education becomes in right earnest an empowerment to create a happy and healthy abode for human beings. And it is for this reason, it would be very important for us to deliberate and discuss at today's National Convention, the Kumbh of the Kulpatis, what can be done today to cause that necessary departure which is required. We are also passing through great times in our country, where restructuring of higher education is on the card, where the new education policy is being developed, where we are seriously pondering over the kind of radical departure which the higher education requires to serve the cause of protecting the interest of man and interest of nature, to ensure that India once again rises to serve the interest of the vast humanity, as it has always prayed for Sarve Bhavantu Sukhna, Sarve Shantu Niramaya, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyanti, Ma Kaschit Dukh Bhag Bhavet. The agenda for higher education, in my opinion, His Holiness, therefore has to focus on relevant-driven excellence, not just excellence per se. What we do in our universities must make a sense for our society, for our nation, for our industries in the local as well as global arena. And it is this focus on relevant-driven excellence and a strong connect to society and industry is something which is a major agenda today for higher education. Further, the integration of human values with education need to be given a renewed emphasis in the campuses of our universities, as we cannot afford to pay a heavy price for the loss of human values in an enlightened and specialized workforce in a country like ours, where loss of values has already created an unprecedented rise of lust, greed, and anguish all around. We need to therefore resonate peace and harmony in the corridors of our universities and discuss the value and worth of civic sense and creation of responsible citizenship from the campuses of our universities. Fellow Vice Chancellors, let this learned assembly today in the Kumbh of the Kulpatis at the divine place of Sarnath resolve to foster values and education together and not just education per se in our universities. Let you be the crusaders of change to make this happen. And let you make Mother India proud by the effort you invest for integration, education with human values of the kind that is required to create a better world tomorrow. We require policy interventions to foster quality and relevance and its integration with human values in our university. His Holiness earlier, if anyone talks of ethics in the university, he was labeled to be a religious person. He was seen with colored eyes. He was seen as a person who is promoting his self-interest. People forget that universal values of the kind that are required to be nurtured in those who graduate with specialized knowledge and skills is something which is a great solace for the entire humanity. We need to establish centers of universal ethics, professional morality, and scientific values within our university campuses in India. Let the Gurukuls of modern India create a space in the campus for nurturing of these human values deeply integrated on the cause of relevant-driven excellence in our universities. The new education policy for our country is in the making. Though I would have liked this to be rolled out just at the same time when we rolled out great missions like Make in India, Skill India, Digital India, Startup and Innovation India, the education policy should have been in place right at that time, how we are going to drive the agenda of these great missions. Almost 4 years have lost, but it is never too late, my friend, because now India is in a position to reap the rich harvest of the effort it has invested in these missions. And therefore it would be absolutely essential that without much loss of time, Dr. Kasturi Rangan Committee, which is now finalizing the draft report for the education policy, comes out with the radical departures of the kind which I have mentioned here. We had a great opportunity to interact with Dr. Kasturi Rangan in Bangalore as a group of AIU, and we made a presentation there, copies of which will be made available to you. One of the strong submissions we made there that, like earlier policies, do not just focus on expansion. Focus on how can you create happiness, how can you turn around the education of our country to greater relevance to our own society. How can you ensure that education becomes a powerful vehicle to solve the pressing problems of enormous environmental degradation which has been caused, the loss for the human dignity and honor which has been caused these departures in your education policy. A document has been submitted which will be shared with you. Unfortunately, the goal of successive education policies in the past revolved around increasing access in the name of increased gross enrollment ratio in higher education, and inclusive education being grossly misunderstood as driving everyone towards university education, while focus on quality and relevance took a back seat. The net result being that we have achieved significant increase in GER, but without the quality and relevance as being the important focus. You get, after all, what you plan. If you have planned for increase in GER, you achieved it, but without the quality and relevance of the kind that we are supposed to be associated with. So the prime question is whether the new education policy this time shall have a radical departure from the approach to the policy formulations in the past. Dr. Kasturi Rangan Committee is well advised to take note that while on one hand India is reeling under the crisis of loss of human values and lack of focus on national and global aspirations, the integration of education with values should form a strong pillar of strength in the new education system that the new education policy intend to present before the nation. We, the Vice Chancellors of Indian universities, with the collective wisdom at our command, should recommend to the Government of India to set up 10 Gurukuls of modern India as the marvels for intellectual wisdom, alongside with nurturing human values of Satyamev Jayate, purity of thought and action, Mansa, Vacha, Karmana, as outlined in the Vedas, humility, peace, harmony, and compassion that shall drive the agenda of education for global peace and sustainable development tomorrow. I want to see the inclusive education being redefined. The inclusive education that the new education policy intend to promote should mean inclusion and integration of education with values, education for employability and entrepreneurship, and education for nation building and for creating global esteem, which India's higher education rightly deserves to rise to. Let the signature towers of the universities of tomorrow be the knowledge and innovation and incubation towers in the university campuses and centers of human development promoting universal human values, work ethics, and professional morality be seen as the signature towers of the universities of tomorrow. We require a paradigm shift in our research. Unfortunately, in the past, our major purpose of research was to contribute significantly to the good quality publications. And we take immense pride in saying that today India stands at number 4 in terms of quality publications in an area like chemistry. But look at what the chemistry has done within the country. Our wastewater management, our air pollution, the kind of problem which we created because of lack of understanding of chemistry for our industries and society speak volumes that while we are publishing high quality research paper, we are not translating the benefit of our research for our own industries, for our own society. Therefore, one of the basic departure in our approach to research has to focus on relevance. Let the research be seen as a solution research for solving the problems of the community, for solving the great challenges which the nation and society faces, rather than merely contributing to the citations and high-quality impact factor publications. The need of the hour, therefore, is to nurture interdisciplinary education, engage in cutting-edge research, cultivate translational and solution research, and foster creativity and innovations in abundance, and take them to the level of commercially viable technology and product of vital value that to make India a world leader in quality education and research. We also need to create the Panchamrit of academia, industry, R&D organizations, society, and government as a part of our strategic framework by which the higher education is to be imparted in our country. Let you all, fellow Vice Chancellors, remind yourself what Lord Rama himself has said. He said that Janani Janbhuma Swargadapi Gariyasi, which means your motherland should be seen as the bliss of divinity, a heaven on earth. And unless we serve the cause of our own motherland, make Mother India proud of our contributions, wipe out misery, poverty, disease, an enormous amount of environmental pollution that we have created, we shall not be seen as successful universities. And therefore, let this Panchamrit of academia, industry, R&D organizations, society and government form the strategic framework to create the universities of tomorrow in our universities. I would urge each one of you to create the vital synergy of mind in your university. Cast a renewed, collective and successful vision and draw a strategic plan for your university to make stupendous progress on quality of education, relevance of research and development, causing accelerated growth of innovations and startups in your own university, giving rise to startups in plenty, and make your university a powerful vehicle of transformation of regional and national development. I take great pleasure in being part of this historic 92nd annual meet of Association of Indian Universities at the Central Institute of Higher Tibetan Studies at Sarnath, Varanasi, Uttar Pradesh. I wish to thank you, His Holiness Dalai Lama Ji, for your most gracious presence, and thank you, Vice Chancellor Dr. Samten, for giving us this opportunity to host this 92nd Kumbh of Kulpatis here at Sarnath, the place from where we would go back to our university with renewed inspiration and with renewed commitment and resolve to create that vital difference that is required to be created to create a better tomorrow. Ladies and gentlemen, let you all join me in expressing our profound gratitude to His Holiness Dalai Lama Ji for his most gracious presence at the inauguration of this function.
Thank you, Professor P.P. Sharma, for such an enlightening speech, stressing most importantly on the need and the importance of universal ethics, the revival of ancient wisdom of India, which His Holiness has been stressing on for so many years, and the well-being of Mother Nature, and the importance of the centers of education all around the world to serve the interests of the community as a whole. Thank you. Now, may I request Chief Guest of the program, His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama, to please release the special issue of the University News and occasional papers brought out by the AIU. And for that, may I call upon Dr. Amar Indrapani, the editor, on the dais. This is the occasional paper of the AIU being released.
Thank you, Your Holiness and the dignitaries. May I now request His Holiness the Dalai Lama, the Chief Guest of the 92nd Annual General Meet of Association of Indian Universities, to kindly give the inaugural address.
Please. Although these days, so a little bit tiring. Therefore, yesterday, I speak on chair. Now this morning, okay. So out of my respect, I prefer speak stand. Then, respected senior brothers and also sisters, and rest of brothers and sisters. I always start with the word brothers, sisters. I really feel if we keep here entire 7 billion human beings as brothers, sisters, then many problems will reduce. With too much emphasis, we and they, even including religious believer, my religion, their religion. So that's the source of problem. So now time come. I think firstly, the world become smaller. East world depend West. West depend East. Similarly, South and North. Global economy, no boundary. No religious boundary, no political boundary. Then more important is ecology. Global warming is the entire world now facing. I think water, our life depends on water. Now, because of global warming, now reduce water. So now, the new reality, we have to think according to that new reality and act. The century-old or old thinking, we and they. And on that basis, violence, war. Now I think war should be outdated. Although war is part of human history. But then ancient time, war, not much serious. With sword, with spear, and then gradually some, the 겁도 좀 가서 그래. 맨도 겁도. 지금 되게 겁도 가서 그래. 가. Some gun is very difficult to manage and take a lot of time like that. So the ancient time, because of the ability to kill, not that much sort of, because of the powerful. Now today, I think several thousands nuclear war ready to use. I think maybe 2 years ago, or 2-3 years ago, one occasion, meeting with Nobel laureate. Then there is one organization that also is a Nobel laureate received. So about nuclear weapon. And they explain the consequences of using nuclear bomb. Beside immediate sort of destruction, killing, beside that, they afterward, because of heat produced by nuclear weapon, they cloud a world. So when we listen, the experts sort of explanation, we really feel, that's really terrible. So at the meeting, I suggested, now from this meeting, now we should set up some kind of timetable. Within 2 years, 3 years, say the nuclear free. Just we want, just you see saying nuclear free, not sufficient. We should set up timetable. And once we start timetable, then worldwide some movement to reduce nuclear weapon, to eliminate nuclear weapon. But nothing happened. So now, at previous time, war is the one sort of opportunity to show some individual heroic sort of strength. Bigger number kill, then people consider big hero. Actually, those heroes are murderer. One individual kill one human being, go to jail. With you see the weapon, killing thousands, 100,000 people praise, big hero. This old thinking. Now we must build genuine peace. Peace will not come a nice statement or resolution. Even in the United Nations, just a beautiful resolution, some beautiful sort of speech will not change. Because violence comes from anger, fear. Now we have to tackle, reduce fear, anger. Now in that respect, just mere our knowledge, education, not much effect. So now here, my own sort of the experience when I was in Tibet as one of thousands the monk student. I also study with great reluctant, no interest. So our sort of tradition root text memorize, learn by heart, and then each word explain. Then use extensively logic in order to, understand precisely. So not easy. So I was very, very lazy student and very much reluctant to study these things. Then eventually, I myself, facing a lot of problems. And then, ancient Indian knowledge, which come from Nalanda since 8th century, Shanta Rakshita brought. Correct? Shanta Rakshita, 8th century, invited by Tibetan emperor. She introduced Buddha Dharma more effectively according to Nalanda tradition. So since then, over 1,000 years, we kept Nalanda tradition. So then eventually, those subjects which I learned with great reluctance, gradually I found, this really very, very useful to keep inner strength and bring inner peace. So no matter what sort of external situation, if you trained with fuller knowledge about the whole system of our emotion, whole system of our mind, we have the ability to keep peace of mind. So if you have that sort of experience with fuller knowledge, then peace of mind not depend on external thing. So I learned very, very useful through my own experience that those subjects which I study, learned. And then, now today's world, as far as education, so-called modern education is concerned, I think Europe, highly developed, as well as in America, highly developed. India just a copy from their, pattern, right? Like that. In this country, modern education introduced by Britisher. So, you copy from West. Now look, West, Europe. I think, I'm not historian, but seems to me 17th century, 18th century, 19th century, the science, technology, these develop. Then, 20th century, First World War, Second World War, then Korean War, Vietnamese War, including Soviet Civil War, as well as the Chinese Civil War. Some historians, they say 200 millions of people killed through violence. And I personally also visited Hiroshima and Nagasaki, where 2 nuclear bombs used. My first visit there, I met some old Japanese lady who actually experienced the vibration or heat from nuclear bomb. Still, I remember one watch, pocket watch. the time about 10. And then half melted. So that shows the time when bomb fell. And then heat such a strong, the half that watch melted. So the 20th century, one way, a lot of technology, science development with modern education, but I think tremendous violence. Now still on this planet, old thinking, whenever some disagreement, some sort of different interest clash, they're always thinking how to solve that by force. That's 20th century's, the traces of 20th century's thinking. The immense violence really brought some better world, good world, and then okay. Oh, that immense violence, you see, brought some good result, but that's not case. So now time come. In human mind, we should think, now this century, peaceful century. Peace does not mean just mere, peace. I think whenever peace does not mean no longer any different interest or sort of or a conflict. So now, this century, 21st century, should be a century of dialogue. Whenever we find some disagreement, some difficulties, potential, some crisis, we must meet in the spirit of brotherhood, sisterhood. Should not think, they wanted to kill, not that way. They also part of we. So we have to find mutually agreeable solution. So now 21st century should be, in order to achieve century of peace, we should develop courage, wisdom, century of dialogue. So now in this field, education really making some new shapes of thinking, of mind. Now in this respect, as I mentioned earlier, ancient Indian knowledge, firstly, the knowledge, full of knowledge about emotion, the system of emotion. These days I describing hygiene of physical, we actually study. Now we should include hygiene of emotion. That's very important. In that respect, I think ancient Indian knowledge have, as I mentioned, my own sort of example, as I mentioned earlier, ancient Indian knowledge, the detailed explanation about mind, about emotion, then how to tackle. Naturally, you see, in this country, before Buddha, I think over 3,000 years, the concept of shamatha, concept of vipassana, already there. These are the method transform our emotion. In order to carry that fuller knowledge about nature of our mind and our emotion. So although these things come from religious texts, now we should not consider these are religious matter or these are academic sort of subject, and including the what's it, logic. Like as far as Buddhist logic is concerned, Dignak and Dharma Kitti, and also Shandarakshita himself and Qamar. These great Indian Pandits, their explanation about logic, extremely sophisticated and wonderful. Now these you should consider academic subject. So, hopefully, in Indian also academic field, I think eventually should introduce the subject about human mind or psychology, then ancient ancient Indian logic, Brahman. These things, I think, consider academic subject. I feel that. So then, now compare Europe, I think, India. In spite some difficulties in the past, I think the concept of ahimsa and secular kept. So, as a result, now one example is religious harmony. According to Indian concept of, or say the secular, they respect all religions and also respect non-believer, as I mentioned there. So these are, I think, wonderful. Over 1,000 years, this concept there. Now such concept is very relevant to today's world. I think India is the only nation, as an example, all major world traditions live together. Occasionally some problem. That's, I usually describe Indian, over a billion Indian, all not, because of the holy person, but some mischievous people must be there. So therefore, some sort of small sort of, problem among different institutes. That's understandable. But overall picture, I think this country is truly example. All major world rich traditions can live together. I think, so therefore, I think these are the result or effect of India's secular concept and ahimsa. Ahimsa must go together with karuna, mental level, karuna, action level, ahimsa. Without karuna, ahimsa will not materialize. So therefore, see, India, I think, among the Egyptian civilization, Chinese civilization, Central Valley, Indus Valley civilization, these are ancient sort of civilization. Among them, I think, in Indus Valley civilization, I think eventually produce most great thinkers. Buddha, also I feel product of ancient Indian culture. So also the Mahavira and so on. Basically, this country, over 3,000 years, is a certain sophisticated cultural heritage there. So then eventually, Indus Valley civilization, I think, produced many thinkers, many preachers of ahimsa. So you Indian should feel proud. Now, it is not sufficient. We just repeat, oh, great India in the past history. No. Now, on day-to-day life, now this country should utilize ancient knowledge. You should combine modern education and ancient Indian knowledge should combine. Modern education, very, very necessary, very helpful to build material development and technology, science, these things. And then ancient Indian sort of knowledge about emotion, about mind, that very important to bring inner peace. So I think out of about 200 nations, I think this country, only this country have the ability to combine modern education and ancient Indian thought, Indian knowledge, so that modern education bring us physical comfort, ancient Indian knowledge bring us inner peace. So just when you say, pray to God, not sufficient. Pray to Buddha. I'm Buddhist. My own practice, pray to Buddha. Very useful. But for world, pray to Buddha, not much sense. And similarly, pray to God or pray to Kasa, these different gods. I think instead of pray, I think we should ask God, why you create a lot of mischievous people on this planet? Why? One my Indian friend, very religious-minded, once he asked me, whole world created by God. God is full of mercy, compassionate. So why among his the creature, right? The many mischievous people there. Why? He asked me. And difficult to answer. Then I told him, oh, since God created hell, so there must be someone go to hell. Otherwise, no meaning. Fortunately, he didn't ask further question. If one further question, why God create hell? Then no answer. So therefore, now I think we should use our common sense rather than believe religion. And then I feel scientific sort of finding is very, very useful. I myself, over now 30 years, serious discussion with modern scientists, mainly cosmology, neurobiology, and then physics, particularly quantum physics. I think many of you may know Raja Ramana, nuclear physicist. Once he told me, quantum physics in West is something new. In this country, over 2,000 years, that concept already developed. He mentioned, he read Nagarjuna's sort of writing. He found there the concept of quantum physics. It is true. Then psychology. As a result of meeting with sort of Western, sort of psychologist, then sometimes I told them also, and publicly also I'm mentioning, compare modern psychology, compare ancient Indian psychology. Modern psychology looks like kindergarten level. Ancient Indian psychology highly developed. So now these are treasure of India. Now must revive this knowledge in modern India. Then I think, as some already mentioned, then India can make certain significant contribution for world peace, through inner peace. Now, today's world, there is some kind of crisis or emotion crisis there. So therefore, now this emotion through prayer, God or Allah or Buddha, not sufficient. We must use our own intelligence. For that, knowledge, the whole system of our emotion is very important, considered as an academic subject. So now, you see, among the top scholars, Vice Chancellor, I have nothing to say about the education of these things, except the certain sort of, the subject which I study and implement. I think these really change my life, my emotion. I think comparatively very, very peaceful. Not through prayer, but through training. So we 7 billion human beings, physically, emotionally, mentally, same. Provided these things should consider secular way, not religious thing. So that now tomorrow, some serious discussions. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Your Holiness, for sharing your experience during your younger days about your education and your call for genuine peace and the end of war, and the need of such changes through the revival of ancient Indian wisdom to develop a healthy mind and emotion for the materialization of true ahimsa. Now, may I now request Dr. R.K. Upadhyay, Registrar of the Central Institute of Higher Tibetan Studies, to give the vote for thanks.
Most Venerable His Holiness the Dalai Lama Ji, His Eminence Professor Fransisco Marmolejo, Global Coordinator of Higher Education of the World Bank, Professor P.V. Sharma Ji, President, Association of Indian University, Professor Furqan Qamar, Secretary General, Association of Indian University, Professor Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor G.N. Samten Ji, respected dignitaries sitting on the dais and off the dais, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for giving me an opportunity to give formal vote of thanks on this occasion of the inauguration of 92nd Annual General Meet of Association of Indian Universities. The emotional joy attached with this meet and national conference has multiplied many folds with the graceful presence of His Holiness the Dalai Lama Ji to save the humanity in the present age of materialism. Your message of peace and compassion are certainly the powerful ray of hope for the entire humanity of the planet. On our request, you have very kindly graced us with your presence for the inauguration of the annual meet and two-day national conference. On the occasion, I personally and on behalf of all delegates, faculties, staff and students of the university express our heartfelt gratitude to you, sir. We would like to express our deep gratitude to Honorable Professor Fransisco Marmolejo, the Global Coordinator of Higher Education of the World Bank. We pay our sincere thanks to Professor P.V. Sharma Ji, President, Association of Indian University, Professor Furqan Qamar, Secretary General of Association of Indian University. I express my gratitude and thanks to our dynamic Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Geshe Nawang Samten. He has always stood as our motivational and guiding force during all our actions and keep on giving important directions on each and every aspects of the arguments from start to end. I express my gratitude and thanks to the Honorable Vice Chancellors who have come from various corners of India and abroad. I also express my gratitude and special thanks to the Honorable former Vice Chancellors and Directors sitting in the audience. I express my gratitude and thanks to moderators, speakers, and participants who came from different parts of the India and abroad to attend the conference. I would like to thank other dignitaries and distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, who have joined us for this inaugural ceremony. I would like to convey my deepest gratitude to all those faculty members, staff, and dear students of this institute who have been performing their assigned duties with full dedication. Due to their efforts, everything went so easily and smoothly. My thanks are due to all the district administrative officers and intelligence functionaries and their responsible officials for their remarkable support. I also thanks to the press and electronic media for covering the events on this occasion. In the last but not the least, I personally and on behalf of the Institute give thanks to all those who have cooperated directly or indirectly in making this ceremony a success. Thank you all, ladies and gentlemen. Jai Hind, Jai Bharat.
Thank you, sir. May I now request Students Association of Performing Arts to sing the national anthems, both Indian and Tibetan. And for that, I request everyone to stand up and sing along. Indian National Anthem, 1, 2. Jaya He Bharat Bhaya Vidata Punjab Sindh Gujarat Maratha Dravid Utkal Ganga Vindhya Himachal Yamuna Ganga Uchar Jaladi Taranga Tab Shiv Name Jage Tab Shiv Ashish Mange गाहे तब जय गाथा जन गण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे शिवे दे को छुवे
Thank you. The Vice Chancellors, apex bodies and foreign delegates are requested to have a group photo with His Holiness at the Kala Chakra ground. The family members are requested not to go there. Thank you.